our last speaker of today. Her name is Tanja Martinez Vazquez. She is a training and leadership coach. She facilitates training programs in leadership. She helps people make conscious and sustainable decisions and helps individuals managing their work and their teams. And together today, she will talk about what skills leaders need to guide companies in times of crisis. Hello, Tanja.
Hello, Elena. Okay, I'll just start by sharing my screen. So hang on. Okay, so I think you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So first of all, Elena and Robin, thank you so much for creating this event, and thank you so much for connecting all of us. It's really a pleasure and a privilege to be part of this. And as you said, Elena, I will present something about what skills leaders lead to drive companies through crisis. So in the next 20 minutes, I will talk to you a little bit about why at all navigate through crisis. And we'll look into a framework that we call the Cynefin framework. We'll also talk a little bit about how to navigate crisis. And this is a lot about how to grow your mindset. And of course, we'll also talk about how to lead yourself through crisis, and especially how to lead your teams through crisis. And then as a cliffhanger, I also have a challenge for you in the end, just before we move into Q&A. But before I just present a little bit about myself, I would love if you can just write one word in the live chat that describes how you feel right now. So just take a moment to just check in with yourself. Maybe you just joined this presentation, or maybe you just heard the 3 other presentations as well. Just check in with yourself. How do you feel right now? And just put it in the chat. One word that describes how you are right now. Let me just check the chat, see what comes in. How are you doing right now? Anna says relaxed, and Federica says motivated. That's fantastic. Do we have some more vibes coming up? Jules says inspired. Beautiful. Fantastic. So just one word that really describes how you are feeling right now. Just keep it coming. Another one says excited. That's fantastic. Just keep it coming in there in the flow. Happy. This is Elena saying happy. Fantastic. Keep it coming. Keep connecting through the chat with each other. And then I will move on a little bit with my presentation. Just a little bit about me, short introduction. 2001, I graduated from CBS, Copenhagen Business School. I have a number of other accreditations like coaching and mental training, nature-based psychotherapy, and all sorts of other weird kind of accreditations for the past 20 years. This is just a sample of pictures to show you a little bit of what I'm doing. So I have been supporting lots of leaders around the world. I think I lost count now, but I think more than 500 leaders in the past 10 years, where my expertise has been more and more around leadership. So I've been working across a variety of industries, and also in many corners of the world. Also, I work locally in Denmark, where I also live. So so far during the pandemic, I have especially supported around 100 leaders during a couple of virtual trainings, and also during one-to-one sessions. And those are the leaders where I will draw upon some of the experiences that they have had during the pandemic, and how they actually came about to solve it during this crisis. So I will start sharing a very personal story. So during the first lockdown in Europe, I was in Spain with my daughter. We were visiting my parents. My mom was actually in the hospital with a sprained appendix, and my dad was at home alone, and he's very, very old, not able to take care of himself. So we were there to support, first of all, my dad. And then when my mom came out of hospital, my mom as well. And then all Europe locked down. So we were supposed to stay there for 11 days, and it turned out actually to be 6 weeks, with 5 flights canceled and taking care of mom and dad, and my daughter couldn't go to school, and we were all locked in a very small apartment. So there were plenty of room to really feel a victim of the crisis. For me, I think this was one of the very most important learnings from this crisis, really to turn the crisis into something that I could learn from. So turning it into a learning opportunity and turning it into looking at new possibilities. So we'll go a little bit more in depth in that after just a little bit of theoretical input here. So why at all look into why we navigate crisis? I think this has a lot to do with preventing yourself from falling victim to the crisis and actually coming through the crisis. So one of the frameworks that we have used, I'm also part of a consultancy company, and we have several clients. And with one of the clients, we have worked with this framework called the Cynefin framework. You can look it up on Google and find lots of different talks with Snowden, who is one of the people behind this model. So I'm just going to go through it briefly. You can look more into depth if you're interested in that. But if we start in the center of the model, we find disorder. This is where we are actually most of the time. We just don't realize it or accept it. But this is where we are most of the time. I think many of us during this year has really realized, whoa, what a chaos. It's all chaos. It's all disorder. What's happening? We're standing in the unknown. So actually, as a human race, I think we're evolving into really understanding that everything is in the unknown. The most common response to any situation would be the simple or the complicated. So what you see on the right hand. So we will look for a relationship between cause and effect, and we will categorize or we will analyze the situation and then respond to it accordingly. So this is what we call best practice or good practice. This is not working during this pandemic at all. If we use this kind of response, we will fail because we have not been in a situation like this before. Experts know very little. Now, of course, they know a little bit more, but they don't know it all. And I think this is where many politicians fail. This is where many companies fail. This is also where many leaders fail, that they think they need to know everything when they don't. It's not possible. It's a lot about emergent responses. It's a lot about novel responses like we see on the left-hand side of this model. So it's about trying out stuff. It's acting and it's trying out and it's acting and it's trying out again and evaluating and do these quick kind of responses to see what is working, and also really accepting that you don't have the right answer and you will fail along the way. So one other way to look at this model is a little bit more visual and maybe a little bit more chaotic. But why I really want to bring this forward here, this model, is what is on the right-hand side of the model. So when you believe all is simple and everything is ordered, and past successes makes you invulnerable to future failure, this is actually where you are grabbed by the chaotic domain by the throat, and it drags you right into a crisis. And I think this is what we've seen over and over again for the past 8 to 9 months, both national level with politicians, but also in companies. We think we can figure it out, and we can't. We're standing in the unknown. So what are we going to do then? I think this is a lot about changing your mindset. And this is, as I said before, this is going from falling as a victim of the crisis into navigating through crisis and navigating this unknown and accepting that you don't have all the answers and that you will fail along the way. It's also acting from a place of ease instead of acting from stress to try to solve everything and receive these quick results, because it's not possible. It's not a good attitude to act from stress. You need to be calm. You need to come from a place of ease, to be really present and curious and decide what is the best next step. I think, and this is something that I talk to many of the leaders that I support. This is something we talk a lot about, coming from autopilot. So some psychologists say that 95% of all we do is autopilot. And it's creating that shift from autopilot and into growing your awareness and coming from a more conscious place when you decide and when you act. So there are also a few other general things that you can do to really support yourself in growing your mindset during crisis. One thing is, remember your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you want to create this company? Why do you work in this company? Why do you do what you're doing? Remember your why. And according to that, also set your intentions. What's your intention for the day? What's your intention for the meeting? What's your intention even for attending this summit? So what is your intention? And then it's over and over again practicing your presence. And we'll get a little bit more into that. How can you do that? But it's so crucial that you are being present. So that means not in the future, not in the past, but staying present to really check in what is really happening in reality right now. What's happening here and now? And then it's also balancing between listening from yourself and out. And what I also talk a lot about with the leaders I support, also listening from the outside in. What does this mean? It means picking up what's happening in the field, talking to your team members, and also just listening. What's the need? What do they need right now? What does the company need? Even if you're really out there, what does the planet need right now in this very moment? So it's flexing between listening inside out and inside in. And from that space of connecting with your why and setting your intentions and being really present and listening with curiosity of what's happening, then you can make a decision on what's next, both for the better for you and also, of course, for your team and the company and also the planet. And from this space, you can act and you can align your actions with your why and your intentions. And I think most important, I think it's about also having this experimental mindset. So a mindset where you will try out stuff that you have no idea if this is going to work, but you'll try it out and you'll see what happens. You can always come back to what you did before if that doesn't work, or you can even find a third solution or something else to experiment on. So, leading yourself through crisis. This is a lot about, as we just talked about, growing your awareness. This is about growing your resilience. And from my own experience, as well as the experience with leaders that I've trained throughout the past many years, I think this is about creating a daily practice. So not only a quick fix, yes, now I need to meditate because I feel a little bit stressed, but it's about creating a daily practice of mindfulness, meditation, or any kind of breathing exercise that will help you calm down, that will help you relax, that will help you grow that muscle of resilience to be able to stand in the unknown. And that's a daily practice. And then it's also about choosing time for yourself, choosing time to restitute. So especially during this kind of collective hectic energy field that we are all in with this pandemic, I think it's really important to check in with your own energy. So one way to do that is creating a logbook or an energy diary. And you can look into what gives you energy and what drains your energy. And then just look into the activities that you're doing and look into, how's my energy when I did this activity? How was my energy just after? Did I feel tired or low, or how did I feel? And just make like a 10-minute every day in the evening or whenever you go to bed, 10-minute energy check-in with yourself. So this is one way to realize what you need to do more of and what you need to do less of. Also, it's important, as I said before, to do the meditation or mindfulness or any kind of breathing or anything that will relax your nervous system. So you're more relaxed, and so you're more at ease, and you're more ready to actually stand in the unknown. Then I think, especially during these times, and this is something that I work a lot with the leaders I support, it's about avoiding the back-to-back meetings. So this is a big killer, the back-to-back meetings. I have talked to leaders that have like back-to-back meetings from early morning to even late evening, and they don't have any breaks. They eat during the meetings. It's just ongoing. So it's really important to create these small windows in between the meetings, and then just to get away from the desk if possible, get outside if that's possible, and even better if it's possible, have at least a couple of hours in nature every week. So science says that two hours a week in nature will actually de-stress your entire system. So it's also, of course, important to pay attention to your exercise and your diet to really take care of yourself and your own energy. I think many of us fall into the trap of eating a little bit, the wrong diet, and we know it, but we still fall into the trap of doing it because I'm sitting behind the screen and I just need to have like a quick fix meal that will give me quick energy, right? And also we tend to forget to exercise. So it's really, really important, especially these days, to remember this. So just one of the final slides here. So based on the experience with the leaders that I've supported throughout the pandemic, I just tried to extract the challenges that I've witnessed them experiencing. So I put it into two columns, one with the challenge and one with the experimentation. So what they have actually done to come across these challenges or come out of these challenges. So one challenge, and a very general challenge, is that they feel, both the leaders themselves, but also their team, feel insecure, they feel frustrated, demotivated, and maybe a little bit of hopelessness. Oh my God, second lockdown for so many countries right now, right? People sent home once again, if they even got into the office in the first place. And then it's really important to share as a leader. It's really important to share clarity on what they know. What do we know right now? Also be transparent about the things we don't know. That's also really important. And also induce hope that we will get through this, but only if we do it together. And the leader cannot stand alone. The leader need also the people around him or her. And then maybe have a session or several sessions where you clarify what kind of structures do you need? What kind of maybe new roles, new methods are relevant for this situation that you're in? So a more conscious attitude toward being in the crisis. And then also, and this is just in the backbone of the leader, just the knowledge that team members react differently to crisis and change. That depending on their personality profiles or what they have lived through in their life, they will react different to crisis. And then it's very important if the leader is more like, yes, fantastic, it's new opportunity. It's also a matter of the leader accepting, okay, not everyone are like that, and I need to accept that some of my team members are not on the bus to different and experimentations and all of this change, fantastic. Maybe not all of them are in the front of the bus. So they also need to accept that, okay, I need to take care of also those who are in the back of the bus. Especially during this lockdown period, I think it's really a challenge to keep teams engaged. how to do that. I think one of the first questions some of the leaders started to asking themselves and the team is, how do we meet? So I'm not talking about distributed teams. It's also a very good session to have with distributed teams, but these are teams that normally used to come into the same physical building in the same room and used to have interaction with each other and being able to meet at the coffee table or the lunch table or even going to the toilet or whatever it was. Those formal and more informal meetings are so important to still nurture. And then have a dialogue with your team. How are we going to do that? How are we going to create also a possibility for these informal meetings, coffee meetings, cocktail meetings, or even a cocktail party like we're having here a little bit later? Then I think this is one of the phrases that I've come to learn during this pandemic, the elephant in the Zoom. So the killer of all these virtual meetings, we are so tired. We are so tired, or at least the leaders I support, they are so tired of virtual meetings. Their team members are tired of virtual meetings. And I think one of the reasons is that it's very reactive meetings, that it's very passive meetings. So one of the things we talk about, I talk to the leaders about is remind your team members to put their cameras on so we can all see each other, and also do a check-in. So some of the leaders that I work with really took this in, and they now do check-ins like 20 minutes. Let's say they have a team of 10 people. Then they do 20-minute check-in in the beginning of the meeting, not about logistics, not about what's on the agenda, but what's alive in you, what's happening, what's going on for you right now. And from that space of connection, then it's possible to be much more effective in the meeting. And last but not least, get rid of those back-to-back meetings. They are killing everybody. So I've come up with the phrase of a 50-60 culture. So if you have 60 minutes, great. 50 minutes will be the meeting. 10 minutes will be a break, because often these back-to-back meetings, they turn into 2 minutes more, and then you're already 2 minutes behind for the next meeting, and you just need to grab a cup of coffee and you don't have time. And there is no breathing in between. Breathing in between and space in between is really important. All right, finally, a challenge for you. And I'm not going to go into depth with this, but I'm just going to challenge you to do an intentional walk. So if you're in a place where it's possible to go outside and go into nature, you can do what I call an intentional walk. Many of the leaders that I support have done this to really investigate either a question that they are struggling with or need a new perspective on, or a decision that they need to make. So this is something you would like to investigate, and you bring it into an intentional walk in nature. So if you want to know more, you are so welcome to reach out. I can send you a description. There are so many elements of this, and I won't go into this now. So time for question and answers. So I will stop sharing.
Okay. I don't know if Robin, do you want to go with a question first?
Thank you so much, Tanja. Yes, I actually have one question already that I was wondering, because you said that it's really important to keep this experiential approach, right?
Yeah.
But then I was wondering, especially in these times of crisis, like how can you also do this approach on like a big scale? So for example, I mean, politicians these days, they have to make quite big decisions, like how much do we shut down the country or something like that. And also organizations, like their revenues are just declining and they have to decide, so what are we going to do? So would you say this experiential approach can still be used, or is there a limit to this?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the short answer. The more long answer is, I think it's also very important to be transparent that this is actually what you're going to do. This is an experiment. And I think some politicians are better doing this than others. I know that the Danish prime minister is a little bit in a bad mood, right? Or well, in a bad vibe right now. But some of the things that I really like, she said in the beginning, is that we're going to fail. We're going to make mistakes. And I think just putting that out there in the field, that will give more forgiveness from people. not as a general rule, but as we're standing in a land of unknown. We don't know if the result or if the things we're going to implement are going to create the results that we like. But we're going to try it because we need to do something. Yeah.
Okay. But then maybe an additional question, like how quickly would you say should leaders then pivot to another approach? If they realize something doesn't work, like should they try to stick to it for a bit longer, or should they immediately try something completely different?
So I think it needs some time for to try it out. So when do you know it's not working? So I think if it's like a daily practice, yeah, if it's something you do daily, then you maybe need a couple of weeks to evaluate from a better place. Is this working as we intended? Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Any questions from the chat?
We do have a question from Federica, and she's saying, since you have worked with hundreds of leaders, how do you manage to maintain giving different and personal advices to each situation and person?
That's a great question. Maybe a little bit unexpected answer. So I tend to use a more coaching mindset. So some of the leaders I have sessions with, I have no idea actually what they're doing. I'm not an expert in their field, but what I am an expert in is an expert in asking questions. So I can ask questions and through that create some consciousness, a reflection pause for them to find their own solutions together with me. And then of course, I also do have experience with leading team members, so I can draw from that experience and I can offer a piece of advice, but it's always like an offer. I don't say you need to go and do this. I'm offering a piece of advice. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe let's see. I have a question. So we talked about navigating in the unknown, and this is what it's like during a crisis. But do you have some practical tips for everyday life to learn to accept the unknown? Because this is very hard, and I think everybody's struggling with this, not just leaders, but everybody in their daily lives. So maybe you have some tips that you could share that can apply to any situation, maybe.
Absolutely. And again, I will come back to meditation, mindfulness practice, any kind of breathing exercise, because what you practice there is staying with whatever is there. You can't run away when you meditate. And if you start this kind of practice, it's not about the result. It's not about, okay, I need to meditate because I want to feel relaxed. That's a result. That's where you want to reach something. And with meditation, you don't want to reach anything. So it's just sitting with whatever is. So I've been practicing meditation for, I don't know, the past 17 years, and I still have a lot of thoughts. My mind is going many times, right? But then it's fine. When I do meditation and there are many thoughts, that's just how it is when I do it that time. Maybe another time it's not like that.
Mm-hmm. And maybe this is more of an, I don't know, philosophical question, but what do you think is the reason of why, as people, can have a hard time accepting unknown situations? Do you have an idea?
I think because we are kicked out of the comfort zone. So we like to know what's happening. We like to figure. We like to be able to figure out what's happening. We like to do what we have always done. We are slaves to our habits. And when we're kicked out in the unknown, we have no answers and we have no habits. So we need to create new ways of interacting. For instance, when we can't see our friends, how am I going to see? I'm going to feel lonely. So how can I now see my friends? Yeah. So just an example. So my birthday was last week, and I was like, I really wanted to have a great party, but second lockdown in Denmark, and we could only meet 10 people, which was definitely not enough. So I threw a virtual party, which ended up lasting for 3.5 hours. So I think to get back to your question, I think it makes us uncomfortable when we're in something that we don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know if you, Robin, have any other question.
No question at the moment. I mean, I know, maybe I can elaborate on how I know Tanja. Actually, I was participating in a mentoring program at CBS, and Tanja was my mentor there. So she's not only teaching great leaders in big companies, but also students, which I think is really great. So I've heard of some of these frameworks, and I think it's really some good insights for all kind of leaders, like no matter what size of company and no matter which sector, because I feel like so many people, they're just so focused and so stressed all the time without being able to kind of take a step back and kind of evaluate, why am I actually doing this and what am I actually doing. So yeah, I think there's some really valuable learnings there. And thank you so much, Tanja, for joining us.
You're very welcome, Robin. And thank you, Elena, as well, for making this happen.
Thank you so much.
You.
It was a pleasure to have you here, and to have everyone that joined here today, our audience that really participated in the live chat with us and asked questions, and to our speakers that deliver really, really valuable and interesting presentations.
Yes.
So,
and thanks to you also, Elena, for the great moderation of this.
And thanks to you, Robin, for saving the summit today.